humanity, which all of you will pay for my suffering. They said he made references to the conservative summit where thousands were in attendance, and then he had a gun in his captions. The FBI said a warning similar to a threat posted before a man shot and killed 6 people at himself in California in 2015. Opening the last of the building research in that shooting. The investigators say he had booked a flight from Texas to Florida, canceling it the night before the event. He has been charged with making threats.
You're listening to the official Reformed Stoic podcast, covering politics, philosophy, theology, conspiracy theories. I'm ready to get to the bottom of this life. Are you? Join Wolfgang, Sketty Squad, Purity Gang, as we strive to take dominion over this dying planet. I am Reformed Stoic, and this is my podcast. Let's go. Oh, man. All over the place today. Freaking shoving peanut butter crackers in my mouth so I don't open my glug on an empty stomach. Mic check. Mic check. Smear check. Yeah, I really just unironically threw this together in the time between the smear session and now. But we got it, baby. Let's get it cranking. What's going on today, guys? Well, I planned, basically yesterday we were going to go ahead and go over Joe Biden's student loan plan. As you guys probably have caught on, I'm a little bit excited about that. Opening up the Diet Glug. Scrambling for the next topic, I figured, hey, let's just check in and see what the government's saying about incels. So, in theory, we've kind of talked about incels all the time over here. But, let's see what the mainstream is saying about incels. There's all, like, the black pill channels and incel channels and all the, like, obscure communities online. Let's see what the normies are saying about incels. Let's see what the news is saying about incels. I'll give you a hint. They think that incels are very violent and potentially domestic terrorist threats. So you might want to keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and, like, think about how life has been and what we've been through. And think about saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not an incel. Maybe I just struggled a little bit. Would have been nice if somebody was here during my struggle. But as soon as life got hard, everybody tarred and feathered me and cut me out of their life and pointed fingers at me and said, that guy's a domestic terrorist because he's unhappy. So let's try to just get it back, baby. I know you probably wanted people to help you. It's like, hey, man, life's getting hard. Oh, I understand, bro. Life's hard for a lot of people. Sometimes guys struggle, and that's okay. If you're waiting for somebody to say that, I'm sorry, friends. Nobody's going to say that. They're just going to point their fingers at you and call you a domestic terrorist and turn everybody against you and make everybody hate you. So, and then finally, we're going to watch some videos on salvation by faith alone and get some perspectives on that. We might have already covered that topic, but it's not a big deal. We'll cover it again, maybe. It's all about the coziness, baby. It's not even about the topics, man. It's just about being cozy. So get cozy for the news segment. You're listening to the Reformed Stoic News segment. Let's go. Okay, guys. You know what? Before we get started here, okay, let's go ahead and do this. In case you missed it, let's premiere it for the gang. I made this goofy little video last night. Where are you guys at? Might as well. Said I was going to make this, and here it is. Why, hello. Who goes there? Who is
Here's what my administration is going to do. Provide more breathing room for people so they're less burdened by student debt.
Let's go.
All men and women created by the go,
Is going to do. Provide more breathing room for people so they're less burdened by student debt.
Let's go.
All men and women created by the go,
Look, Joe. Tendy.
Beginning to see why your wife left
Hot
you.
Pockets.
COVID has taken this year,
Legos.
just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it.
Oh, not my problem. Let's get LMAO.
What's it just
More insurrection. Yikes, nobody cares.
Iraq. In terms of what was going on in Ukraine.
Boomers, they're going to pay my loans.
By strengthening.
Actually, it's not just boomers who are going to pay the loans. It's actually also, nobody cares. Let's go.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Cozy hype. Let's go. Yep. So that was my vision come to life. Not my problem. Yeah, Trump with the feds. There's just all these like random Biden quotes going to. Poor kids are just as smart as white kids. Okay. Let's get serious now. Why is everything muted? All right, here we go. Let's get it going. Real podcast.
President Joe Biden announced a sweeping new policy to cancel student debt for millions of Americans. The policy also adjusts how much borrowers will have to pay each month and extends the pause on payments. Americans who made less than $125,000 per year in 2020 or 2021 would qualify for a $10,000 cancellation of debt. For Americans in the same salary bracket who took out Pell Grants, the total forgiveness would go up to $20,000. The forgiveness applies to anyone who took out their loans before July 2022. The Department of Education has some people's information, so their debt could be canceled automatically. Some may also need to submit a simple application showing they meet the income caps. Erasing $10,000 in student loan debt will cost the government about $300 billion. Because the federal government backs many student loans, U.S. taxpayers will likely foot the bill. Biden's new policy was just one of his vows around reforming the higher education system. The announced relief led some progressives to commend the progress so far, but still call for more.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for...
Okay, pretty straightforward. Just apply. Yeah, so boy, I want that 20,000, baby. I got like $19,000 in student loans out there, guys. Holy shit, dude. I can just tell you, man, most people out there are talking about how this is like a big crock of bullshit, and I understand. I can't really reason like why this should be the way that it is, but I can tell you this much, guys. You're not smart in high school. I don't care like how smart you are relative to the high schoolers around you. And then there's just the fact, and people from my hometown get really angry when I talk about it. The way it was supposed to be is like I was a part of this party scene here. I was a small part of it. People were like, people didn't even want you at the parties, bruh. But I was a small part of the party scene here. And I grew up to think, you know what? Like, I feel like we were wasting our time having pissing contests with guys who were like gonna win no matter what, dude. In high school, girls think that like future heroin addicts who have boats and four-wheelers are the shit. And there's nothing you can do about that, So, I don't know. I'm kind of just like ranting. The point is that I decided that I was going to get into truckloads of debt to go to music school when I was like 17 or 18. And the idea was kind of incepted into my head by my drum teacher. And people's attitude just seems to be like, hey, if you make the wrong decision, that's on you. I didn't make the wrong decision, F you. Like, I did the smart thing, you didn't. Yeah, your life is screwed up now. That's what you deserved. You should have been smarter when you were 17, when you were 18. And if you ask me, yeah, sure, like a driven, organized high schooler should be making their own decisions. However, they should never be alone in their own decisions. And if they make a decision that's terrible, I'd like to think that there's some sort of an adult figure around them to help them see why that's not a good decision. And ultimately, when I was 18 and a senior in high school, I was a party animal. I threw parties at a house that I was house sitting. I went to wild parties. Like, dude, I was just like a party idiot. And I'm not trying to sound like I think it was cool, but yeah, when people are like saying, I don't think you've ever been laid in your entire life. Well, the only reason Well, actually, it's funny. I never really got laid in any of those circles, but I don't know. I don't even know what that has to do with anything. I was going to say the only reason I ever got laid is because I was a part of those circles. I was out there. I was in a very different place in life back then. But for somebody who thought, wow, I made a bad decision right out of high school, screwed my life up right out the gate, and everybody says, sucks for you, should have thought better, sucks for you, you should have known. And then I grow up to be somebody who's like, wow, well, now I would make good decisions, and now I do make good decisions. And a lot of what my life is like, now you pride yourself to be pretty smart, but you've already massively screwed up your life, just like that. So to have an opportunity to get those loans forgiven is like, wow, man, like I really appreciate that. And as far as everybody else who didn't make that mistake, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just, after all the chaos that unfolded in my life, it's just kind of like, man, boomers are going to pay my student loans, and I'm very grateful for it. So let's take a look at the comments. I'll bet there's lots of seething going on here. They should make the schools pay back the loan forgiveness. Yeah, I could see that. It's very predatory. School loans and schools are predatory. It's insane, you guys, and I feel like I was ripe for the picking. Small town. My parents were much more interested in their careers. I was going through a rebellion phase. So maybe there was kind of like some angst towards me. Nobody really wanted to help me. And it's predatory, man. Like, the system is more about making money and not about like trying to guarantee that people are going to be successful. And I can't help but feel like the adults that should be a part of our lives, rather than like trying to help people who are in a tough spot, they say things like, well, that's on you. You made the decision. It's your fault. They just seem to want to rub your nose in it, man. And I feel like that's been pretty much my entire life since high school. And yeah, high school wasn't great. And I could make the argument that my entire life was screwed up, dude. But anyway, and are they still going to be giving out new loans, creating a never-ending cycle? Correct. Yes. Oh, yeah, the loans are never going away. Oh, man. Easy explanation. You now owe that money as a taxpayer. On average, $2,000 per American. Doesn't matter if you went to college or not. Thanks, Brandon. 300 billion more gone. The problem is that this doesn't address why college tuition is so expensive to begin with. In fact, if Biden plans to just forgive student loans and simply stop at that, prices will likely only go up as demand increases from people betting on their own loans being forgiven in the future. Student loans are a large part of what got us into this mess in the first place at all. I think there's an overemphasis on education. And I would say that this is overall probably like a conservative Republican view, pretty standard. Not everyone went to university in the boomers' time. And this is actually maybe one of the most communist aspects of the left. Because we've kind of gone over how, like, okay, maybe the left isn't really communist, but maybe one of their most communist attributes is that it's always the left. You're not educated. You're not educated. You didn't get a degree. You didn't get a degree. And I'm not trying to say that a degree is worthless. In fact, at this point, a degree is becoming something that you just have to get. A lot of boomers who made enough money to attract a woman and start a family and live and retire without a college degree are going to tell you, well, you got to get that degree, Sonny Jim. It's your golden ticket. And the boomers who are telling you that wasn't the world that they grew up in. You know, you could make a living working fast food. You could make a living doing labor. And you can still make a living doing labor. People still do it. But overall, the point I was trying to make is that any job that you apply for anymore is going to give you the what for if you don't have a college degree. So rather than a college degree being a leg up, like, oh, wow, you have your bachelor's, that's very impressive. Now it's like, oh, you don't have your bachelor's, I don't think you're the kind of person we want for this Wendy's position. I don't think you're the person we want for the front desk of this gym. I couldn't get a front desk gym job because I didn't finish my music school degree. Now you're competing with people who all basically they have all kinds of funding and programs. So, more or less the kind of people who wouldn't have gone to the college. The people who wouldn't have gone to college in the past, now there's all these benefits and programs so they can go. So college is like high school 2.0 at this point. And rather than like, wow, I have a bachelor's in whatever, I have a strong leg up. Now it's like, okay, I have a bachelor's. Now I'm qualified to get a $10 an hour job. Now I'm qualified to get a $15 an hour job. I think at this point, I don't know. Are people still paying $10 an hour? What's even the minimum wage at this point? I mean, I got to be honest with you. I've kind of been out of the workforce for so long. I just lost track, dude. It's like, well, why are you out of the workforce for so long? You guys, I kind of got the neat mentality a little bit. I mean, I did do some work. I did this and that. I have been putting my mental power to creating strategies to just not take part in this system. Because it is becoming like a slave system. Like you have to get a degree. You have to get a degree anymore. Basically, pretty much. You pretty much have to get a degree. And then with that degree, it's less valuable. So you have to spend all that time in college to get an entry-level job. And make overall less money relatively than you would have made as a boomer. So boomers did not have to go to college. If they did, it was a huge leg up. But, Ben Shapiro says this. All you have to do is don't have kids before you're married, graduate high school, and get a job. That's Ben Shapiro's big philosophy on how to make it. I disagree. I kind of disagree. I mean, you could definitely not have kids before you're married, get a job. You could do all that. But what the incels and MGTOW and all the manosphere people are pointing out is that good luck attracting a woman with a minimum wage job at this point. And a lot of women are all... This is like what the left is making it about. This is how the left is making sense of it, is that women are all graduating from college. Women are overwhelmingly graduating from college, and now we're finding that 60% of universities, these are statistics from big studies, are women. 60% of women going to university at this point, or 60% of university enrollment is women. And then women graduate with their bachelor's degree, and then they think a man with no bachelor's degree is inferior to me. I am much too educated to date a man who does not have a college education. And a lot of guys don't want to go to university anymore because every class seems to be becoming like, let's blame everything on white men. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube, but that is the perception of a lot of guys, okay? Whoever, that's what a lot of guys think. It's like, I don't really want to pay to get a bunch of dirty looks because I'm a white male. That's my perception. Let's move on. I managed to go on quite a hefty little rant there. In 4 years, student debt will rise to the same level. We will keep backing dumb loans. America is in decline. Oh, yeah, the comfy plumbing and construction jobs while women work in HR at home. Yep. And people needed to value. See, this whole stuff oh, he's a plumber. Oh, he's a construction worker. Oh, he what happened to my man works hard for his money. Might not have a lot, but my man works hard. I can't remember any of these songs, dude. Might not have a lot of money. What's that song on the Footloose soundtrack? Let's hear it for the boys. You gotta understand. Maybe he's no Romeo, but he's my loving one-man show. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's hear it for the boys. What happened, girls? Like, your man used to work hard, and you didn't have a degree, and you didn't wear huge glasses and work in HR. Now women snub their noses at guys who have good, honest, hardworking jobs. Those good, honest, hardworking jobs don't go as far as they used to. Now you can still absolutely make a living, but the reality of the two, this is where I kind of compromise. I guess you could say with feminists or Democrats, it's like, look, I realize that parents basically both have to work now. A lot of women are out there like, look, I'd love to just be a housewife and take care of the kids and have the husband make all the money, but that's not cutting it anymore. Like, I'm sorry, your plumbing job or whatever you do, we could be living like upper middle class in the boomer times, but now that ain't even cutting it, and the women have to work. And ultimately, it's getting to a point where it's easier for women to make more money, I think, which is very strange because considering like they always talked about the wage gap, the gender pay gap. I mean, are people still saying that? Are people still saying there's a gender pay gap? Because I think women are making more money at this point, at least like in the middle class and upper middle class. At the end of the day, the white male billionaire elite that the left are always complaining about, they've created this way of life for all of us. It's like, girls, the white male billionaires, like, that's not any of the guys in your class. That's not any of the men that are around. So, no. Wrinkles found the crackers. Yeah, it's a mess, guys, and I would thoroughly encourage you, okay? I would thoroughly encourage you to just understand the role that women really play in this, okay? Because this is the society that has been erected around us, and it's easy to get annoyed at women right now, period. I mean, I'm just being honest, YouTube. I keep finding myself talking to YouTube because I feel like you get a strike for just anything, dude. I just feel like it's easy to be annoyed at women right now. And for the record, why do I think universities are overwhelmingly women? I think it's easier for women to get through college. I hope I'm allowed to think that, and it's not hate speech. I just, I think that for a man, you are a part of a competition. You walk onto the campus and it's like, wow, there's these women everywhere and I have to compete with other men for these women. A lot of people would probably say that's toxic masculinity, but you're going to be at college for 4 years. Okay, I'd like to make friends and I would like to attract a woman or maybe multiple women. And as a man, there is a very harsh competition that is going on. And if you fall below a certain category, this goes in line with like the hypergamy theories that men are posing today, which are backed up ultimately by studies using a sample size of millions and millions of dating profiles. Men are a part of a competition, and the studies do appear to be showing that a very large number of men are not having, like, they don't have much of a chance in the competition. It's really a game for the top 20% of men, at least. Now, for women, if you are there and you're single, you're going to be able to find somebody, you know? And I mean, Tinder is a big part of the college scene at this point. So women have Tinder regardless. But basically, like a girl at college, you are not dealing with the same struggle as men. And I really hope that I'm allowed to acknowledge that, because it doesn't come from a place of anger. It doesn't come from a place of hatred. There's some guys, I mean, I can tell you my experience. After 3 semesters at UNLV, it was like, wow, bro. Like, every class is about, like, how people don't like people like me because it's all my fault. I can't get a date to save my life. I got 1 date. I feel like I'm not wanted here. I'm not having a good time here, and I don't want to go here anymore. It's hurting my mental health. And I'm not saying that women never go through that, but I mean, ultimately, and hopefully we're allowed to acknowledge this, women are more sensitive. So, you know, women have like less of a threshold, but it's a mess, you guys. It's a mess. I mean, I could just go on and on and on without even watching any of the videos. So let's go ahead and move on.
President Biden's move on student loans, providing debt relief to millions of Americans. Well, the president was in Maryland yesterday touting this plan as he continues to get pushback from both sides of the aisle now. ABC News congressional correspondent Rachel Scott joins me now from Washington with more. So since announcing this plan, Rachel, you know, Americans pretty much have been scrambling to figure out whether they'll qualify or not. So what is the White House saying about how long it will take before people can start to feel the impact?
Yeah, Kieran, we are really getting new information in on this. And so this is really important for people who do qualify, who earn $125,000 or less that want to see their student loan debt be canceled. So for about 8 million people, you won't have to do any.
You saw a woman get $30,000 in 30 minutes. Wasn't even adult. She just was sitting there doing nothing. I worked at an ice cream shop in Boston. And this girl that I worked with, she said the day that she was working when I wasn't there, some guy dropped a $100 bill in the tip jar. One time I told the people I was working with to go home early because I wanted to make extra money in tips. The one day that I worked by myself and had a super busy day and grinded it out by myself, I made $36. I made $36 the day that I worked myself and like grinded really hard, and you know, she just did nothing and got a $100 tip just for being a girl.
Anything at all. The Department of Education already has your income information. Your debt will be cleared. But for other people, this is about probably 43 million other people, you'll have to go onto a website, studentaid.gov. We are just learning moments ago, the White House announced that they'll be launching applications in early October and that borrowers can then expect relief within 4 to 6 weeks. Now, the other important date that people want.
Mike Santos says, I've worked in payroll at 2 companies. The gender pay gap is BS. In fact, many women made more than their male counterparts. Well, another thing, like the entire system is just more accommodating to women at this point. Like, there's just kind of like this light flow of positive reinforcement for women everywhere they go. And then there's just kind of this little, like this nasty little electric shock for men everywhere they go. Unless you're Chad. It's like, I hope society starts to like acknowledge this because it's very like sadistic. And keep in mind, at the end of the day, feminism is just like, yay, women, go women. It's like just this never-ending celebration of being women. And then like a never-ending celebration, you know, like Black Lives Matter. That's kind of a celebration for black people. Yeah, can we hear it for the white males? You all hate us and you don't want us to be around. So hopefully I'm allowed to say that.
Want to keep in mind here is November 15th. The administration is saying that if you go online and submit this application, if you qualify by November 15th, then you should see your debt either canceled or shrink down before that student loan moratorium resumes at the beginning of the year. So really important dates for people to remember: October to go online and fill out that form, and then November 15th.
All right, well, Biden has clearly been on a roll lately. According to 538, his approval rating has ticked up over 4% since July 21st. What do you think this means for midterms? And Rachel, have things actually changed for the president?
You know, the president has really had a string of legislative victories when it comes to passing the CHIPS bill in Congress, getting that signed into law. We know the gun safety bill that was signed, historic gun safety bill, the first time that Democrats and Republicans have agreed on that type of legislation in some 30 years, not to mention the bipartisan infrastructure package and then the Inflation Reduction Act.
I see more Biden memes coming, dude. Biden's on a roll. Like, that's the reaction I want people to have to my memes is like, wait, what? Like being super smug about voting for Biden. just like acting like Biden is just, oh man, I kind of like memes that don't make a lot of sense, dude. But yeah, so Biden's on a roll, I guess. Woo! Riding with Biden, baby.
Tell you that these are the sort of legislative victories that vulnerable Democrats who are running in these very tight races have wanted to see. This is what they want to campaign on. But at this point, I could tell you this announcement on canceling the student loan debt, this is getting very mixed reviews. You have most Democrats.
Okay, so I saw somebody in a comment on one of these videos about student loans. Somebody said, now do you understand why they have all the extra IRS agents? More IRS agents, more corporate welfare for chip companies, and now loan bribes. Yeah. Yep. Somebody said in the comments, now do you understand why they have all the extra IRS agents? People pointed that out, the IRS activity before this happened. So that's enlightening.
Democrats praising the president for making this move. Obviously, progressives like Elizabeth Warren, even Majority Leader Chuck Schumer was personally pleading with the president to cancel even more than $10,000. But then you do have some vulnerable Democrats running in these very, very tight races. You have Congressman Tim Ryan, who's running for Senate in Ohio. He says that this sends the wrong message to Americans without a degree who are struggling to make ends meet. And so right now, it really remains to be seen what impact this is going to have on some of these Democrats that are running in these tight races that are really trying to edge out their Republican opponents.
All right, Rachel Scott, a lot more to follow straight ahead. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Fallout continues over Biden's student loan forgiveness. Boomers are seething. Yeah, I feel like most people are not happy about it, but I fall into that rare demographic where it's like, man, I screwed up really bad, dude. A school like Berkeley is like, whoa, it's a big music school. John Mayer went there. I want to go. Like, and it's so crazy, man, because it kind of leads into like part of my faith. Like that part of me that's like, I have to go to this high status school. I just have to. I need that. I need that status. I need to be like, yeah, I go to Berkeley. And it just. And the way I see it is like, bro, when you're 17, when you're 18, like, yeah, that was dumb. But I was 17, I was 18, bro. It's just such a predatory thing. I feel like those kind of schools are predatory of people with less money, man. Because it's an expensive school. And the kind of students that I was meeting there, just rich, just millionaire parents. It's like, oh, okay, here you go, $20,000 a year. Like, it's nothing for them, bro. They should focus lowering the prices for studying in college. Well, student loans allowed them to increase the prices. Yeah, I went to UNLV for 3 semesters. I was on the dean's list. They invited me to the honor society. I could have joined the honor society. I got invited to a couple of frats. One of the frats was like some big deal, like Jimmy Buffett. It was the frat that Jimmy Buffett was a part. They wanted me in like ritzy frats, honor society. I was honor roll. I got offered to apply for an internship with the FBI. Like, I was one of like the creme de la creme students there. And it's like, well, gosh, I feel like maybe people should make people like me feel more welcome. I feel like the better students should like feel more welcome and like be encouraged more. But I don't know. And there's a little bit of saltiness and bitterness and victim mentality in that. I understand, dude. It's just that on paper, I was a good student. I'm the kind of student that makes them look good. And it's like, I feel like the teachers don't like me and I'm not wanted here and I'm getting dirty looks and I'm going to bow out. People naturally get upset when you use their money to pay for somebody else's debts. I make $125 a year but can't pay my student loans. I make $13,000 a year on Social Security and can't buy groceries. My student loan debt is approaching $60K and I'm just finally getting my bachelor's in December. Holy shit, dude. I mean, that's the thing is like maybe I should have just fucking kept taking out loans so I could graduate. But I don't know, you know? Like, I don't even think I could take out any more loans. I don't think it was even an option. How are you allowed to take out $60,000 in student loans, bro? This was a result of screwing around and going to college out of parental pressure when I was ready and flunking out numerous times. It's not the taxpayer's problem, it's mine. I'll be a long time before I land a job making more than what I owe, but that's what income-driven repayment plans are for. I'm sure every student will be jumping to apply for this loan forgiveness plan, but it doesn't feel morally right to do it. So I'll just sit this one out. Oh, you're too good to take the handout? Come on, dude. And eat my student debt that I'll probably have till I die. That's so cringe, dude. The program is there. You're not going to take the money? Like, all right, cool, whatever. I've noticed YouTube is much more based for comments. If you look at Twitter, it's all like 80% liberal comments because YouTube is a bit more free than Twitter. That just bans anyone right of Karl Marx. Sad reality is I feel like a lot of platforms are headed in that direction, man. I'm still pretty salty over the strike I got on my main. It was on my video, What is 4chan Poll, where I explained that it was a honeypot. You know, and I'm not going to go over it again because, hey, I don't want another hate strike. Like, I have absolutely no idea why that video would have got me a hate strike. I was defending, I was saying that the ideology that dominates poll is wrong and artificial and bad. And I guess YouTube doesn't want that. I guess, I don't know. I find myself biting my tongue all the time, bro, because the walls are closing in. You cannot be an empire abroad and an empire at home. Mark Twain. Okay. There's no plan to cancel student loan debt, just to pass it on to those that don't owe it. Man, if you ask me, guys, we've established this. College is predatory, student loans are predatory, and some people fell into the trap. And I read these comments, and everybody's like, I didn't fall in the trap. I did this. I don't know. It's like, hey, guess what, guys? Some people fell in the trap. What about them? Well, they're idiots. Well, they're stupid. Well, that's their problem. Well, it's like, you know what, guys? Okay, yeah. All the people who fell into the trap, tragically, your argument is like, who cares about them? That's their own fault. Well, I'm kind of glad that Biden is pushing you guys to do the right thing. It's like, okay, you've made it very clear that you don't care about your fellow Americans who are unfortunately ensnared in this predatory trap. You don't care. Your philosophy is everybody, who cares? I only care about myself. I did the right thing. You're dumb because you didn't. But Biden's like, hey, you know what? Like, I know you guys don't care about your brothers and sisters in this country. Let's just go ahead and do the right thing. Anyway, I mean, do I not? I know it's screwed up, dude. I get it. But I have a unique opinion on this because I got freaking burnt right out the gate. The way the chips fell for me is just, I got manipulated and going to this stupid expensive school, and it feels good to have a second chance. Even though my life is pretty much already ruined for a number of different reasons, but hey, you know, this will help. Awesome. One less thing in my life that sucks. I remember when the founders got together and said we shouldn't form a new nation because it might not be fair to the British loyalists who paid their taxes. Oh no, that's not right. Everybody's salty, dude. For all you Republicans complaining, talk to the colleges. There is no need for high tuition. The school forces you to buy new books every semester. Math has not changed. But they will add a couple of sentences, move a couple of chapters around, so you can't use last semester's books. These colleges are competing. They add swimming pools and high-tech gyms to draw more students. They have gone online, forcing you to do your homework online, so you can't sell last semester's book to a new student. If you go to a college out of state, they will charge you $30,000 for room that you have to share with other people. That's $3,000 a month. I feel like there's so much evidence that points to this country just not giving a shit about its people. It's just all about making money. It's just trying to profit about us, man. This is a farm where we're cows that produce money. And we're all these cattle that produce money, and we just go through this predatory system that milks money out of us. And all signs point to, like, that's what the country is. Like, it just doesn't seem like they really care, bro. All right, let's move on. So much content in this topic. Here we go. 7 minutes. How Biden's student loan forgiveness plan will work.
President Biden unveiled his administration's plan to cancel billions of dollars in student loan debt. The plan will cancel loans for borrowers making less than $125,000 a year, including $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients. The federal loan payment pause is also being extended through the end of the year. Mr. Biden says today's action will do more than just take away debt from those who need it most, but will help Americans for years to come.
I believe my plan is responsible and fair. It focuses the benefit on middle class and working families. It helps both current and future borrowers, and will fix a badly broken system. And these actions build on my administration's effort to make college more affordable in the first place.
The president says the loan cancellations will impact 43 million people nationwide.
If you have student loans, you're probably wondering how the president's student loan forgiveness announcement will impact your debt. Well, the first thing that you need to know, this only applies to government loans, meaning federal direct loans and Pell Grants. Any loans that you have from a private organization like a bank, well, they're not going to qualify. With a regular federal loan, $10,000 can be forgiven. If you have Pell Grants, which are awarded to low-income students, you're looking at up to $20,000 in debt forgiveness. So how does all of this work? Let's say you have Pell Grants and you're qualified to receive $20,000 in loan forgiveness. If you owe $15,000 in federal student loans, well, then the government is going to forgive all of that debt in its entirety. You're only eligible if you make less than $125,000 a year, or if you're married, regardless of whether or not you have kids, $250,000 per couple. Well, this plan also includes capping the amount of loan payments that you owe on a monthly basis. And the plan also brings it down from 10% of your salary to 5%. It limits how long you're paying this debt to 20 years. The White House says it also will provide fixes to try and make student loan payments and forgiveness easier to manage, especially for military and public service workers.
Let's go ahead right now and bring in Roy Paul. He is the executive director of Sense Ability, spelled C-E-N-T-S Ability, which is a nonprofit aimed at educating teens about financial literacy and management. Roy, welcome. It's good to talk to you again. So how much is this plan going to cost the government? We heard President Biden talk about concerns about where this money was going to come from. So as far as we know, how is the government going to pay for this?
Yeah, so it's going to cost about $200 to $300 billion, depending on who you talk to. And I think what the president is really trying to underscore, more so than the cost of the program, is this notion that he is investing in low-income people who've been struggling with debt, right? There's all this talk about the final total package plan and then inflation impact. And I think what he was trying to hone in on this message is that whatever the impact ends up being, whatever it ends up costing, he's willing to take the hit to invest in people who really need economic relief right now.
So, Roy, we heard a couple of questions being thrown at the president about the fairness for people who maybe had to scrape together their funds to pay off those loans. We didn't hear him address that. How much of a financial impact will this plan actually have on people with student loan debts? And is there a feeling, are you hearing from people about relative fairness in terms of this new announcement?
Yeah, there's no way to really fix the notion that it's unfair, because for many people it is. And if you are one of those people listening to the president talk right now about this plan and you've already paid off your loans, you're sitting there going, wait, what happened to my $10,000 or $20,000? A lot of people really do make life-altering decisions based on their student debt. They take out a cheaper mortgage for a home. They may not be able to drive the car that they want to. Their vacations might look a little bit different. So they've sacrificed, and they're not going to get a rebate. And so the president doesn't want to talk about it too much because it is unfair for those who are in that situation.
Well, Roy, we're hearing criticism from some Republicans saying this plan will only make inflation worse. I know Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has criticized this plan, calling it a, quote, wildly unfair redistribution of wealth. What's your take on that criticism?
Yeah, at the heart of whatever this is going to cost, it's going to be really placed on the taxpayers, right? That's who eventually is going to end up paying for it. And that is really what's driving some of the negative responses that you see, because included in a lot of those people who are going to be paying for it are people who never went to college themselves, right? And so this redistribution argument is valid in the sense that you're talking about people in this country who are really trying to get up out of this financial crisis by themselves. And now this is one more thing to add on top of all of it. And so I think the president, this is really going to be a messaging strategy for the president. How effective is he and his administration going to be in really selling the idea of helping people come out of this financial crisis as opposed to anything else? That's really what's going to be the driving factor here. It's really how they message it to the American people.
Roy, you teach teens about financial literacy, management. A lot of times, one of the problems is that is taught, it's handed down from parents who are either aware or not aware. Presumably, some of the teens that you work with don't come from a background where they've had a lot of instruction on this. How will this forgiveness affect them?
Yeah, for me, I look at two things. One, many people that we teach and across the country don't even know what their monthly student payment loan is going to be when they graduate in 4 years. They take out the debt and they figure it out when they graduate. And what we want to do is change habits, right? If you're going to go to school, there's nothing wrong with going to college and taking out loans to do it. But if you're going to take out $50,000, $60,000 in debt, maybe there's a least expensive alternative. Can you go to a community college to start, or maybe a state school? And then on the back end, when we talk about all this forgiveness that people are going to get, I really want people to really understand that when you have that $10,000 or $20,000 forgiveness, hopefully that then is redistributed in your own personal bank account. How are you then going to use that extra money you didn't have to spend to make sure that everything else adds up evenly in your account? And I hope people really do take advantage of that.
All right. Roy Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
If you really wanted to be utilitarian about this, which the left is always about, they made a big point to teach us about utilitarianism and philosophy 101. That's what's the best for everybody. How many people are going to be upset about this? Millions. Well, if you took like BlackRock and Rothschild and Rockefeller and Bill Gates and Elon Musk, why don't you just get like a handful of billionaires? And what was the total budget for this? Was it like $30 billion? How much was this whole entire thing going to cost? Does anybody know off the top of their head? Is like what, $30 billion? Just get the freaking billionaires to pay for it, dude. I mean, that's really the utilitarian solution. They're still billionaires. And instead of pissing off millions of people, you piss off a few billionaires. It's like, hey, you're still a billionaire. We just took some of that money that you're sitting on in your Scrooge McDuck swimming pool of money that you dive into. $300 billion. Okay. Well, BlackRock has like $10 trillion. So easy. Just make BlackRock pay for it. Boom. I mean, that's what's best for everybody. That's what causes the most happiness. That's utilitarianism. Instead of millions of taxpayers getting pissed off, just some BlackRock people are pissed off. It's like, hey, you're still rich. You still got over $8 trillion. So it would just feel better. It's like, wow, like $300 billion that was just sitting in a freaking bank, like back in circulation. It's just so much healthier for the world, dude. All right, well, we're coming to the end of this topic. We got one thing to read here. The biggest problem is colleges charging outrageous tuition fees, causing this to happen. That is what a lot of people have said so far. And part of the reason they're charging these fees is because they know people have access to student loans. If they didn't have access to student loans, they would have to lower the tuition to get their enrollment. Regulate college tuition. That's what everybody's saying. Now we need to cap these institutions. No more predatory pricing. Honestly, these colleges, universities should be paying back people the interest as well. And when so many people are talking of colleges this way, these institutions are predatory, they're jacking up prices. I mean, I know how I see universities at this point. A lot of angry women who hate men, price jacking. A lot of them are scams, man. It's just becoming a scam. It's like, wow, this country just so transparently wants to like scam the up and coming generation, and it's so ugly. And I know that a lot of people travel to Europe to go to school because school is like way less expensive there, as far as I understand. Tuition in Europe is just not the same. It's not the same kind of a deal. So Biden's student loan relief plan will mainly help working and middle-class borrowers report fines. I mean, I'd say we covered this pretty thoroughly. I'll read a couple of things here. Pell Grant measure. The addition of the Pell Grant provision shifted the direction of the assistance. The Pell Grant adjustment is more geared toward lower-income student borrowers. Pell Grants, which provide up to $6,895 in aid for the 2022-23 academic year for those who qualify, are a key way that the federal government helps students from lower income families go to college. Typically, the grants do not have to be repaid. However, they only cover about 1/3 of the cost of college, so many students also have to take out loans to earn their degrees. We're in a recession now. There's a depression coming soon. We pay $900 billion a year to our military. The other country's budget is like $15 to $50 billion a year. Wow. Government term limits. Remember, you can't steal money for a Democratic campaign unless you move money. Hyperinflation is coming. There's no avoiding it now. All right. Let's move on. This should be interesting. Secret Service report shows growing incel terrorism threat against women. Let's get it.
The Secret Service released a study this week on the growing terrorism threat of the so-called incel movement. Incel is short for involuntarily celibate. Adherents call themselves anti-feminist. The report says followers of the incel movement blame acts of violence on an inability to form relationships with women. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News Homeland Security and Justice reporter Nicole Skanga. So, Nicole, reading your reporting on this, these details are chilling. First of all, what are the origins of this movement and how has it evolved?
Yeah, Lane, in the late 1990s, a Canadian woman actually created this internet peer support forum. It was kind of the safe place for people who wanted a relationship to seek support from others who were experiencing similar social awkwardness, mental illness, or overall disenfranchisement. But as the incel movement expanded, its membership really evolved into something a lot darker. And by 2000, young heterosexual men exhibiting more aggressive views towards women overtook this conversation. Today, there's a manosphere of groups like men's rights activists and men going their own way. One example, Elaine, this week, a disturbing TikTok trend has boys and men joking about killing their romantic dates. We found dozens of eerie videos set to pop music, some on accounts with tens of thousands of dedicated views. I should note that CBS News has reached out to TikTok for more information.
Really disturbing to hear those details, as I said. Nicole, since 2014,
CBS News has reached out to TikTok for more information? What, do you want a bunch of like 17-year-old girls doing TikTok dances in the bathroom? Like, what? Reached out to TikTok?
Attacks inspired by the incel movement have left dozens dead in the U.S. and Canada. What did the report reveal about the common thread among followers of this ideology?
Yeah, Lane, the 26-page report by Secret Service took a deep dive into red flags predating a massacre at a hot yoga studio in Tallahassee, Florida that left 2 people dead, 4 injured back in 2018. Before taking his own life, the attacker was fired from multiple teaching jobs, barred from apartment buildings, and he once authored an 81-page revenge fantasy about a boy-turned-serial killer. He was arrested 3 times for incidents of groping women in public, and his roommates called him Ted Bundy. His parents reported removing him from his niece's birthday party after he touched young girls. On the day of the shooting itself, he wrote in a final note that read in part, "If I can't find one decent female to live with, I will find many indecent females to die with." Authorities found that he had called the yoga studio beforehand. So while Secret Service says there's no one profile for these kinds of extremists, it's urging investigators to consider patterns of behavior and potential targets, since suspects often test the waters before staging an attack.
So, Nicole, if that's the case, what can communities do to help detect and thwart some of these tragedies?
Yeah, 4 words: behavioral threat assessment programs. This is see something, say something, kicked up a notch. These programs can be developed in workplaces, college campuses, local communities. Most programs rely on the public, and they are designed.
So basically like the useful idiots of the USSR. If you read like Gulag Archipelago, there were people who were very passionate about turning people into the secret police. It's like, hey, over there, that guy said he didn't like Stalin, and then you get arrested. Hey, over there, that guy said he didn't like communism. Yeah, that was like the normies. That was like the normies of the USSR. People who just really enjoyed turning their friends and family members. They took pride in doing whatever the communist regime was about, and they'd turn anybody in. So, you know, just like a network of people reporting wrongthink, and they're talking about how these guys don't like feminism. So if you don't like feminism, you can get reported. I mean, I just don't even know where to start with this, man. There's really like a gaslighting element to this. Yeah, let's finish this out.
To detect and report early signs of a potentially dangerous person or situation. Elaine, they're not punitive, meaning they're intended to support those in distress before things escalate. Bottom line, if a person receives help sooner rather than later, they may be less likely to cause harm to themselves or others.
It is an eye-opening report. Nicole Skangen. Nicole, thanks for sharing your reporting with us.
So I can tell you that in my experience, every low IQ normie who I've ever smeared in a debate calls me an incel. So I could just be like having a debate with somebody like I just did with Dead Doomer, just kind of being calm. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're an incel. I'm going to report you. And it's just, I wonder, this guy was like debating me on feminism, and he said he's not a feminist, and he's a total incel. I mean, normies love calling people incels. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of like the go-to low-hanging fruit for somebody who's butthurt about losing an interaction. There should be a meme, like, when you lose a debate and there's a button that says incel and somebody's about to press it. Like, it's just like the go-to for somebody who's losing. It's like, yeah, well, you're an incel. And so anybody who thinks you're an incel, which so much of the time just amounts to somebody being butthurt and wanting to call you a name, they can go report you, and now all of a sudden you're being investigated for domestic terrorism. I mean, it's just such a mess that I don't even know where to begin. I mean, we got to start with like a series of logical thoughts, like a series of logical statements here. I mean, if you do not subscribe to feminism, does that necessitate that you're an incel? I mean, you'd have to start by defining an incel. What makes someone an incel? And if it's really, I've heard people define it, somebody who hasn't had sex in 6 months. It's like, okay, well, some people are Christians. I mean, ultimately, somebody who grows up in the church is going to be taught not to fornicate. So I mean, this is just such a mess. I don't even know where to begin. First of all, how do you define incel? And then, okay, well, if you disagree with feminism, because she made the comment that these people are against feminism, well, is there anybody who's against feminism who isn't an incel? I mean, are you saying that, like, either you're a feminist or you're a domestic terrorist? I mean, is that kind of what's coming out of this? I mean, it's just so unbelievably illogical. And, you know, just a couple of women, like, deciding the fate of men here. I mean, could we get, like, a man to chime in on this, maybe? Or are there even any men in positions of authority anymore? I mean, this is just... I guess it's not that bad being an introvert. Books are my best friends. Well, if you're an introvert, then that suggests that maybe you're not having sex, and maybe you're an incel, and maybe you're a danger, and maybe you need to be investigated, dude. Like, there's a lot of implications from this. Like, you have to have sex at least once every 6 months. I mean, it's just so unbelievably totalitarian and illogical and crazy. Now, what am I really trying to say in here? Like, am I trying to defend incels? Well, I think it starts with defining incel, which nobody seems to be interested in doing. You see, they really like relative stuff. The government likes relative stuff, so anybody can be an incel at any time, so anybody can get investigated for domestic terrorism at any time. I mean, it's an authoritarian loophole. It's a completely authoritarian loophole. Sometimes I feel the media should at least once apologize what they did to humanity. Yeah, and I mean, and then again, so there's guys out there who maybe it's like, okay, we can define this guy as an incel. Now, are all incels domestic terrorists? That's really what you need to, like, let's paint an image of a guy. It's like, okay, so you're a guy and you couldn't get a girlfriend in high school, and then you go to college and you couldn't get a girlfriend in college, and then now you have a job out of college and you can't get a girl. So you're a guy who can't get a girlfriend. Does that necessitate that you are a domestic terrorist? Absolutely not. I mean, does it necessitate you aren't a feminist? Does it necessitate that you're violent? Does it necessitate anything? There's some guys out there who just can't get a date to save their life, and they're just minding their own business and living their own life. And, like, man, it sounds to me like they've already kind of had a hard time. So now you got to get labeled as a terrorist, and then you know, girls like this, some of these, like, women who are a part of the new totalitarian technocracy, well, they'll say, well, no, being an incel doesn't have anything to do with how much sex you have. It's like, oh, okay, so you could be an involuntary celibate. I mean, you could be an involuntary celibate and have a girlfriend or get laid all the time. And I have a feeling that's the direction the rhetoric is going to take. Like, an incel has to mean something, but it's convenient for their purpose for it to just kind of be subjective. And it's like, well, it's not really about how much sex you have. It's about what you say. What you say determines whether or not you are a involuntary celibate. So does it necessitate that it's impossible for you to have sex if you say certain things? I mean, it just opens this Pandora's box of illogical hoo-ha. Jack C says no one is saying that. Okay, can you prove that nobody in the world is saying that? I just said it, and I'm someone, so I don't even need to read the rest of your comment. I'm gonna delete your comment. You said that no one is saying that. Well, I'm saying it, so actually somebody is saying it. So you're gonna have to do a better job wording your argument, because I already refuted it right out of the gate. There's no way you could possibly prove a universal. You can't prove what no one is saying. So I'll give you some time to think. Maybe you can say it in a way that makes sense. I just read that you said no one, and I just deleted your comment because it just doesn't make any sense, bro. You can't speak on the behalf of everybody. That's dummy stuff. All right, moving on to the next video. Incels are targeting the next generation of extremists on life.
It's an innocent enough search term, self-esteem for guys. But type that into YouTube and within 4 clicks, when Global News tried, we were offered all kinds of posts promoting hate, including one video about embracing the idea of violence in a society that despises what it means to be a man.
I mean, why is the screen blurred out? Why are you blurring it out? Like, you said that you found videos about hate, but you're blurring it out. So how do we know that you're not making it up? Like, I don't understand. Why is it blurred out? You said you found videos about hate, but it's blurred out, so we can't tell whether or not you're lying. I just don't understand anything about this, dude. Everything is just so bizarre and illogical and...
For clicks, when Global News tried, we were offered all kinds of posts promoting hate.
I mean, I guess we'll just take your word for it because you have it blurred out, so that's kind of weird right out the gate.
Including one video about embracing the idea of violence.
I mean, can we see the video? Or we're just going to take your word for it. I guess we'll just take your word for it.
In a society that despises what it means to be a man.
It's very frightening how quickly a young man who might be lonely or might be troubled or might be seeking information can have disinformation and hateful ideology put in front of him.
And can we get a man to chime in here? Again, we have a girl narrating this. They've interviewed a girl. Any men? I'm getting cocky, dude. I'm about to say, like, I'll give everybody watching this $50 if a single man chimes in the entire time. I don't think I want to do that. Again, where the police seek Costa Mesa incel. Oh, man. No, I'm not really going to do that, but I really wonder if a man will ever get an opportunity to speak here.
Experts say it's a new trend. Incel communities target.
Experts say it's new, but who are the experts? Experts who? What's their last name? Experts say, who are the experts? We found these videos, it's blurred out, so we don't get to see the videos you're talking about. We don't know who the experts are. Okay, we'll take your word that you found these videos. We'll take your word that people are experts. Man, I just can't get on board. As an intellectual who values logic, I just can't get on board.
Targeting not just teenagers, but even boys online.
We've had several people.
Let's go! Good thing I didn't make that bet. Here we go, guys. The voice of a man. Let's get it.
Targeting not just teenagers, but even boys online.
We've had several people between the ages of 10 to 12 years old.
Pandemic restrictions have meant young people spending more time online, amplifying radicalization, says this expert who runs a de-radicalization program for young Canadian men and boys.
In terms of recruitment strategy, it's called Get Them Young when they're young.
So why is this guy an expert? Are they going to say, like, he graduated with a PhD? I don't understand. Why is this guy an expert? Like, she said that he's an expert. I guess the logic is like, this is the news. We don't know who's talking. We don't know who's talking right now. Like the lady narrating. I don't know, man. It's just so crazy, so fast. Like, it's just too much. I can't even keep my train of thought. Like, well, who's the lady saying this is an expert, and why is he an expert? And you said you found violent videos, but you didn't show the videos, and I'm just confused, dude. As somebody who runs my life off of logic and reason, I don't even know what the hell is going on.
And indoctrinate them into these ideologies.
Incels, a concept still relative.
I mean, they keep taking like 3-second clips of this guy.
In terms of recruitment strategy, it's called Get Them Young when they're young. And indoctrinate them into these ideologies.
Incels, a concept still relatively new to most.
I mean, can you let the guy talk for like more than 2 seconds?
Canadians, many learning about it for the first time in the wake of the 2018 Toronto van attack that left 11 people dead, including 9 women. Now, portals of overlapping hate, misogyny, white supremacy, the far right aren't hard to find on social media, chat rooms, and gaming platforms.
I think we are collectively coming to that point where we are asking, if not demanding, the social media companies.
See, how come she gets to talk for longer than 3 seconds? The guy was like really 2-second clips, and they just don't let the men talk.
Really do rethink those algorithms.
Experts say there's no easy solution, but there is a push for social media giants.
Experts say this, experts say that, experts, and that's what people do. They just say, "Oh, okay, the expert said it." Really? That's the expert said it, huh? Huh. You just, in case anybody's wondering, I'm like, okay, why are they an expert? Can I see their education? Can I get some reassurance that they're really an expert? But no, they're just experts. Oh, okay. I guess that's how it works.
Experts say there's no easy solution, but there is a push for social media giants to evolve algorithms and to remove and disincentivize extremist content, not allowing creators to make money through such sites.
You can actually see the way in which these algorithms on platforms start putting more and more radicalizing content in front of young men who may have gone.
So one of my thoughts is like, well, you have not shown an example of the content. Like, can you play us a segment of one of these videos? I mean, can you name a creator? Like, here's the thing. They didn't name any of the channels. Violent videos like this one from this channel, but so far they've not showed us any of the channels. How am I even supposed to know this stuff exists? I mean, you didn't show any of it. As far as I know, it doesn't even really exist, you know? Like, where is it? You're not showing it.
Simply seeking information about self-esteem or dating or fitness or weightlifting.
In a statement, YouTube says it has taken additional steps to ensure that those who aim to spread violent extremist ideology cannot do so, although the company did not respond to any specific questions about incels. Meta, which operates Facebook and Instagram, tells Global News it acts on incel-related content that breaks platform rules, though not everything is clear-cut, and they're now working with experts to better understand the environment.
But I mean, what is incel-related content? You know, like, you haven't showed any of it. And I've seen a lot of news in my day. I've seen a lot of news segments. They'll give examples of something. Like, you'll play some of the video. That's what they do. They play some of your video and try to make you look bad. They talk about Alex Jones. They play some of Alex Jones. Like, who are these faceless incels? Like, what are their what are you talking about? I've seen no evidence of its existence so far.
There's also the legislation option. Both the United States and Europe are looking at regulations targeting algorithms. Canada has promised new bills aimed at social media with stiff penalties if companies don't remove online hate. But the Heritage Minister's office wouldn't comment on specifics or exactly what comes next. Abigail Beeman, Global News, Ottawa.
Wow, that just leaves a lot of questions. So apparently, here, let's do this. Apparently, if you search self-esteem for men, you find violence. Men self-esteem. Dating a man with low self-esteem. Is this guy Guy? Self-esteem and body image. So far, just a lot of homosexual guys. Not that there's anything wrong with that. How a man builds more confidence. 7 everyday things. I don't know. Jordan Peterson. How to solve paranoia. Men on Tinder have low self. I mean, I'm not really seeing. There's violence everywhere. Top 3 signs of deep low self-esteem. I don't know. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Yeah, I'm not seeing any violence here. So, and I mean, they didn't post any examples. So, man, I'm just drawing a blank. I mean, we could look at a study from the experts, but they didn't say who the experts are. Do they put any of the experts in here? Virtual schools. Huh. For more information, please go here. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to look at a study from the experts, but they don't say who the experts are. I'd love to see an example of the channels, but they didn't show any of the channels. I mean, it's just almost like it's all made up, if you ask me. Our society is built on fundamental lies. Growing up, we're told you are unique and special, and also everybody is equal. We are told to be nice, but also told that life is a competition. Once you start to actually think about it, you realize that a certain level of delusion is required in order to keep society running. This is the function of meaningless platitudes like money can't buy happiness and looks aren't everything. Observe reality and learn to think for yourself. This is why most empires don't last more than 300 years. Has nothing to do with the fact that a lot of younger men have seen what happens to older men after they get a divorce and how they are financially crippled, all the while having a lower chance of getting joint custody of their kids than their mothers. Young men, learn from our mistakes and never think it won't happen to me. Is this guy an incel? They don't necessarily want a relationship. They just want to be with women they can't get, LOL, sex or otherwise. But who is they? They don't just want to stand close to women. They want to engage in some sort of romantic or sexual relationship. I would love to hear your ex's point of view. Did she sacrifice her entire life to raise children you bore together? Did you treat her as an equal? Did you hug? Okay, so this is just all like a bunch of delusional insanity. They're reporting memes now, literal memes. Let's see the triggered people here. The average global viewers isn't very smart. Agreed. Yeah. I'm going to leave a passive-aggressive comment here. I was hoping you would give an example of what kind... Here, I'll just type it first. Okay, here we go. I was hoping you would give an example of what kind of channels you were talking about. You didn't post any in the video. So then I thought, well, I'll consult the experts. But then you didn't say who the experts were either. Oh, I just love being passive-aggressive. All right, pure, unadulterated gaslighting. Boom! Agreed. They're trying to publicly humiliate and make them as monsters, which is not okay. Quick, people are not buying our narrative anymore. Let's call them incels. Whoa, nobody in the comments agrees with the video? That's... Yikes, dude. Nobody? Is there one comment that agrees with the video saying global needs a drone strike? Whoa, what? Whoa! I shouldn't have read that out loud. Whoa, hey, ho, ho, ho. Can I... Okay, note to self. Take a second before you read comments out loud. Yikes. Trying to make them scapegoats. Like, dislike, bad. Drone strikes, bad. No. Bad Harris. That was a fair research. Your entire channel is evidence for exactly the opposite, catering of every major company. Calling anyone who questions the government storyline an extremist. They don't want smart people who can think for themselves. They want smart people who will comply. Yeah, just like they did to and convoy protesters. Anti-lip stickers. Don't forget the far right. Is it possible to be a Democrat and be an incel? That's dangerous. That's dangerous territory. Why censor the search results on YouTube? I searched self-esteem for guys, and self-esteem videos for guys came up. There's nothing hateful that came up. Is guys having self-esteem hateful or something so despicable as to not be able to be broadcasted? Was the blurred out search results trying to frame what someone who won't search fill in the blank with negative images and content? Well, if that's what comes up when they search that up, that says more about them than anything. The algorithm recommends videos based on what videos they watch. Rubbish. Wow, not a lot of people appreciated this. Boy, not a lot of fans in the comments. Rubbish. If your biggest enemy is poorly socialized boys and men who struggle with romance and struggle with life, You have picked weak and broken people as your enemies, which suggests an inability to face any real enemies or conflicts of value. If a person or a cultural movement can be judged by the enemies it chooses to face, this speaks volumes about the absence of character in our media and society. It is especially sad because the right approach towards the broken, the disenfranchised, and the lost is to help them. Boom. Well, the problem is that America is extrovert society, which why introverts more likely to poorly socialize because most evens are chaotic. Boy, why can't anybody type, dude? Also, a certain amount of incels are middle class. I tried helping several of them. Every single time I was basically told to F off or was ignored. I'm done trying to help them. Who in the hell is them, dude? You tried to help several of them. Anecdotal evidence. No idea who you're talking about. Yeah, just trust me, bro. I won't help unless they ask. Now, if one says something horrible about women, it's open season. Well, I've seen no evidence that that's a thing. Any other gripe, I leave them alone. All in all, when I tried helping them, I got spat in the face figuratively. Can't help if they don't want it. I have no idea who you're talking about. No evidence that you helped anybody. No examples. Just this like theoretical them. What in the hell is an incel? I'll try to help you. I think we're done reading your comments. Based on how you are communicating here, I suspect your approach isn't good. Yeah, same here. Probably not. I'll admit I'm not exactly eloquent. Okay, well then case closed, I guess. Boy, it kind of sounds like everybody in the chat disagrees with the video. The one guy who didn't, he admits that he's not eloquent. Huh. Interesting. That's 100% true. They don't talk about how male suicide rates are much higher than women. They don't talk about how women are usually automatically seen as the victim. They don't talk about the people that are murdered in the streets due to gang-related issues. Instead, they choose to target an online group of lonely people like myself. Wow, they really are reaching this point. Fallacy of relative privation. Huh, really? It is? Well, it just kind of sounded like reasonable to me. Why is it that the people who agree with the video all sound angry and seething and I don't know, man. This just doesn't seem right. Face, height, and race determine if you're an incel or not. Whoa! I don't know about that, buddy. Huh. Well, I think you get the point. We got some more videos to get through. Let's keep rolling. Incel plans to attack Florida student conference. Here we go. Maybe this will shed some light.
Well, new today, we're learning how authorities arrested a Texas man. The FBI saying 19-year-old Alejandro Velasquez Gomez planned to attack a conservative student conference in Florida. News Nation's Evan Lambert is live. So, Evan, sounds like the FBI was tipped off by a post on social media.
Yeah, Nicole, federal prosecutors say it was an Instagram post, and they say that the man threatened to harm people at the Turning Point USA Student Action Summit. Turning Point is a group aligned with former President Trump, which gets college students involved in activism. That event happened last month in Tampa, Florida. Now, in charging documents, the FBI says 19-year-old Alejandro Velasquez Gomez posted, quote,
the face of white supremacy. Oh, cool. Okay, so the last video said that incels are far-right white supremacists, but I mean, is this guy a white supremacist? Or, you know, based on the information they're giving, I gotta tell you, I can't figure out what the hell an incel is, dude.
Documents. The FBI says 19-year-old Alejandro Velasquez Gomez posted, quote, July 22nd is the day of retribution, the day I will have revenge against all of humanity, which all of you will pay for my suffering, end quote. They say he made references to the conservative summit where thousands were in attendance and that he had a gun emoji.
Okay, so he's not far right because he's attacking conservatives. He's not a white supremacist because he's not white. Okay, so, but I thought incels were white supremacists and they were far right. But this guy's attacking conservatives. I'm confused, dude. And why the hell would you talk about it on Facebook? Like, why wouldn't you just go do it? Like, it just doesn't seem very smart. I wonder if maybe he's not really, I don't know, dude.
emoji in his caption on that post. The FBI says that the wording was similar to a threat posted before a man shot and killed 6 people and himself in California in 2014. They think Velasquez Gomez researched that shooting, and investigators even say he had...
Or maybe feds copy pasta the same exact post before every single false flag they do. I'm sorry. Shouldn't have said that.
Had booked a flight from Texas to Florida, but canceled it the night before the event. Velasquez Gomez is being charged with making the threats and child pornography for images that the FBI says it found in a search of his phone. The motive is not clear. Nicole?
All right, Evan Lambert live in Washington. Thank you for watching. Go to...
Well, if the motive's not clear, then why is he an incel? The motive's not clear. But so how did they decide that he's an incel? I don't understand, bro. It just seems like there's nothing objective about incel. It's all relative. Another one of those Hispanic white supremacists. Anyone who doesn't get with the program. I'm sure the FBI also had no involvement in grooming him like the other mass shooters they were caught having Discord chats with. Whoa, man, why is it sounds like the YouTube comments just aren't really like digging these stories, man. A lot of comments saying a lot of stuff. 19, the kid looks like he's closer to 12. The person who was responsible for the 2014 attacks in California was Elliot Rodger. He was the son of actor Peter Rodger. Hey, News Nation. Have somebody keep an eye on your YouTube and delete all the spam comments. It makes you look like social media amateurs. But wait, I thought they said that conservative men were incels. Yeah. A lot of older Hispanics actually fall into the conservative territory, but are they white supremacists too? Does this mean he isn't a registered Democrat? No. He isn't. He is conservative and right-winged himself. Well, why is he attacking conservatives then? Well, I think we can all agree he isn't a white supremacist. This dude was following me on TikTok. You might want to check your spelling if you are wanting us to take your channel seriously. Burn! Give him 10 years. Let's go. It's over. All right. Here we go. Police seek Costa Mesa incel.
What are you going to do later? Sleep? Can I come sleep with you?
Costa Mesa police say they're well aware of Johnny Young's social media videos showing him harassing people, mainly women.
Shaking her head. She literally thinks I'm ugly. That's what it is.
Police say the 25-year-old has a history of targeting women outside nightclubs, bars, and gyms using extremely vulgar language towards women while recording the encounters.
His routine or approach to women, he comes up to them and immediately starts asking them vulgar and obscene, explicit questions about their body parts.
In 3 recent videos, which police say have since been taken down, he approaches women outside a Costa Mesa nightclub, and in 2 of the incidents, pepper sprays the women. He's now wanted for a hate crime, assault with a deadly weapon, and illegal use of a chemical agent. Investigators are now looking for him and his white van they think he's been staying in.
Young has a number of social media sites where he identifies as a incel. Incel is a group of people that identify as involuntary celibate.
Young's Anaheim neighbor growing up is surprised to hear about him being a self-described incel.
You know what's crazy is that Pimpin' Pat recommended this guy's channel to me a very, very long time ago before he was ever in the news. I was like, this guy was recommended to me by somebody who's highly suspicious. He calls himself Jay Rockefeller, which I think is a means of when you search Jay Rockefeller, you're going to find him instead of the actual Jay Rockefeller, who is a notariable capitalist. And then, I've actually seen a lot of Jay Rockefeller's videos, and he gets laid in some of them. Like, there's one where he went to have a three-way with a guy and his wife. He filmed himself, like, next to a girl that he had sex with. So he really, like, wasn't... I mean, I guess I don't know what the hell an incel is, dude, because he says he identifies as an incel. I don't know, man. The one program says incels are white supremacists. Then we see the Latino 12-year-old. They say it's involuntary celibate, but this guy has sex. From the information given by the media, I just haven't the slightest clue of what an incel is. I have no idea.
Young's Anaheim neighbor growing up is surprised to hear about him being a self-described incel.
He wanted to be a porn star for a little bit. I think he might have even done a little bit of porn.
And by the...
He wanted to be a porn star, an incel who did porn. I mean, I mean, if you ask me, the guy's some sort of like an agent who was like doing this for the direct purpose of it being on the news. And I'm pretty sure I said that way back when we first watched it, before he was on the news. I was like, watch, this is going to be on the news because this guy's doing this on purpose because it's fake. And there it is on the... Wow. Like, this is just too strange.
Recent accusations.
No, I heard about some stuff that he did in Vegas, which kind of shocked me. I wasn't ready for that. I know he's been a good kid. Or seems like a pretty decent kid growing up. I mean, my neighbors are good people.
The neighbor says Young grew up with his grandparents.
He was born in a jail, I think, and this is his grandparents. They adopted him. He pretty much took off at 18 and just didn't come back.
And that Vegas incident that the neighbor was referring to, police say that a few years ago that Young was arrested in Las Vegas for threatening to shoot up a nightclub. For now, reporting live here in Costa Mesa, Mary Beth McDade. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
I mean, if you just look at it through the lens of that guy being a plant, like he sure... No, an actor, why would he be as like, I identify as an incel and I'm going to harass a bunch of ladies and then threaten to shoot up a nightclub and then disappear. It is like, that sounds like something that nobody would do. Especially, and he's like smiling and, it's just crazy world, dude. Imagine being called an incel by a news station. LOL. He not only got called an incel as an official news headline, but he also had a neighbor casually tell the news a lot of his business. LMAO. And yet this man probably wonders why he's alone. The lack of self-awareness is astounding. 905 likes. You know, I've watched a lot of Jay Rockefeller's videos, which is probably the difference between me and this guy. Well, I've watched a lot of his videos, and I don't think he does wonder why he's alone. And I don't really think he is alone. It seemed like he was completely capable of having sex sometimes, which he did on a stream, and, Is there like a genuine, like, where's a real incel? I don't think do. Having watched this guy's videos, I've come to the conclusion that he's a provocateur who gets enjoyment from messing with people. He is not genuinely trying to get a girlfriend or wife. One girl seemed interested initially in going on a date with him, but he intentionally sabotaged it to make her mad instead. This guy likes to be alone, and he likes messing with people. He's not as oblivious as he tries to make himself out to be. He knows what he's doing. Interesting testimony there. It's because of his looks. If a Chad with a strong jawline and hunter eyes went up to a woman and did what the incel did, the girls would be all over him. A strong jawline. Does he have...
What are you going to do later?
I mean, his jawline... He actually kind of looks like he has a pretty strong jawline, dude. So I just kind of feel like we're living in wacko insano world. Like, none of this really makes sense. Dude is not an incel. He has chosen his hateful lifestyle. Somebody forgot to teach him how to love. All right, you guys. Definitely doing good for time today. I got to do, let's see, funny bear. I got to go pee-pee. And then we'll get ready for the final segment of the day. Funny bears, let's go.
Oh, so I'm just reading a book. And hello. What's up? There's little babies. There are little babies. Hey, boo-boo. Oh my God.
Let's go. I'm doing a video. This bear is so silly. I'm hurting my tree.
Somebody help me. I need my ball. How do we come out here without the polar bear eating? Check this body out. This is my winter bud.
You need to send this in. This is phenomenal. Like, stay there for
Wait,
we gotta stay there.
Olivia, stay back to the wall for her. Olivia, come back. Oh no, stay here now. Stay here now.
Stay here.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. He was born in jail. I grew up a poor black child. Anybody ever seen The Jerk? It's a good one. I got on DVD. Okay. I feel like the topic's burnt out by the time we got to the articles today. And, you know, seeing as how it's my podcast, if I don't feel like reading the article, I just freaking won't. Incels are a rising threat in the U.S. Secret Service reports fine. But we'll see a little bit what this has to say, because I found the other sources to just be kind of confusing. Some behavioral themes identified include concerning online content, a history of being bullied, and financial instability. Okay. So bullied people who don't make a lot of money. A new U.S. Secret Service report details a rising threat from men who identify as involuntary celibate, or incels, due to their inability to form intimate relationships with women. The report, released on Tuesday and prepared by the National Threat Assessment Center, NTAC, highlights behavioral threat assessment themes identified in years of research examining targeted violence. By the way, this is The Guardian. Themes include concerning and threatening communications, concerning online content, chronic and acute stressors, elicited concern, and others. Concerning and threatening communications, like what? Concerning online content, like what? Like what is concerning online content? Okay, so threats, threatening communications, but are there any examples of what they said? Concerning online content, like what? Like what is concerning online content? Chronic and acute stressors, not entirely sure what that's referring to. Elicited concern, and others. So everybody's really concerned about something very concerning, but I'm just not getting any details. Interpersonal difficulties, history of being bullied. Okay, there we go. Interpersonal difficulties, history of being bullied. Okay, so they were bullied. Okay. Financial instability, failed life aspirations, and lack of consequences. Okay. So unhappy people, basically. Well, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of those in the United States. But they're not all incels, right? You're not just an incel for being unhappy, are you? As a case study, the Secret Service examined a 2018 shooting at a yoga class in Tallahassee, Florida, in which a man killed 2 women and wounded 6. The attacker was motivated to carry out violence by his inability to develop or maintain relationships with women, along with his perception of women's societal power over men, the report said. The gunman, 40-year-old Scott Paul Bierly, exhibited numerous warning signs, including a history of inappropriate and criminal behavior toward women and girls. Well, sex offenders have been a thing for a long time. I mean, when somebody's a sex offender, yeah, that's always illegal and that's always a crime. I mean, so he's a sex offender. Are all sex offenders incels? I mean, why do we need this new category? Steve Driscoll, a lead research specialist at NTAC, said during his teen years, the attacker was accused of stalking his classmates, and he wrote stories that centered around violent themes. I mean, none of that is illegal. Well, writing a story centered around violent themes isn't illegal. I mean, if that's illegal, then go lock up Stephen King, I guess, or any author who makes suspense novels or horror novels. I mean, well, you're not allowed to write horror stories now? One of those stories was 81 pages long and involved the protagonist murdering several girls before committing suicide. Aren't there movies about that? The female characters in the story that were killed represented the attacker's actual classmates from his high school, but he slightly changed the names in his writing. Okay. He was arrested 3 times for groping women and was called Ted Bundy by his roommates in reference to a notorious serial killer who targeted women. So, man, I'm just kind of like, boy, having trouble like wording some of my thoughts here. It's like, okay, so people called him names. I mean, yeah, being a sex offender is bad. Groping women is bad, but okay, like his roommates called him Ted Bundy. I mean, that just tells me that like maybe his roommates weren't very nice and he should have got different roommates. It seems like it's encouraging this like, oh, people didn't like this guy. So it's like this group think, and it's just so bizarre to me. I don't even really know how to word it. The entire school was said to have called him a loser. It's like, oh, wow, maybe he should have gone to a different school. Oh, those are the good people. Right. Oh, those are the good guys. Oh, okay. I'll take your word for it. On the day of the shooting, he left a note in his hotel room that said, if I can't find one decent female to live with, I'll find many indecent females to die with. If they're intent on denying me life, I will have no choice but to deny them life. Their arrogance, indifference, and treachery will finally be exposed and punished. So this one incident is evidence of a giant movement of this? Like the title of this article is Involuntary Celibate Incels Threat. They're a threat. But this is one guy. According to the report, although he did not adopt any specific ideological labels such as anti-feminist or incel, his behavior and beliefs aligned with many who do. But then who do? Okay, so now they're going to say somebody who does. Another incident examined in the report is the 2014 killings. Okay, Elliot Rodger, 6 people. So he killed 6 people and injured 14. Before the attacks, Rodger lamented his inability to find a girlfriend and documented his contempt for women and interracial couples. Report also cites 2020 murder of the son of U.S. District Court Judge Esther Salas, who was killed by 72-year-old Roy Den Hollander, a self-described anti-feminist lawyer who believed manhood is in serious jeopardy in America. Okay, so that's 2 people, and they said his behavior and beliefs aligned with many who do. So 2 people is many, and then one of them is 72, and one of them is 22, and the 72-year-old identified as an anti-feminist. So anti-feminist is inseparable from incel, I guess. And that's just 2 people, and they seem to fit very different descriptions. Like, man, I'm just a never-ending head scratcher this entire segment. According to the report, NTAC research has shown no specific profile of an individual who plans or executes an act of targeted violence. Attackers vary in age, race, sex, education level, employment history, and other characteristics. However, a unifying factor, here we go, among most attackers is a set of concerning behaviors displayed before acts of violence. Concerning behaviors. So, a unifying factor is concerning behaviors. So anyone who shows any concerning behaviors should be believed to be an incel. So what are concerning behaviors? So anybody who does anything wrong is an incel? I don't understand at all. Like, I just don't get it at all. Anybody, so what does that have to do with anti-feminism? Concerning behaviors, okay? Although the Secret Service is best known for its protection of U.S. presidents, it has also extensively examined and implemented behavioral threat assessment programs designed to identify and intervene with those who pose a risk of engaging in targeted violence. The agency noted that misogynistic violence is not restricted to high-profile incidents of mass violence. Rather, misogyny frequently appears in more prevalent acts of violence, including stalking and domestic abuse. As a result, the report said responses to threats need to be collaborative between law enforcement, courts, mental health providers, and domestic violence, and hate crime advocacy groups. Hey, that's interesting they say that, because I know somebody who works for a domestic violence agency. We're actually pretty... You could say we're pretty close. The risk of future tragedies can be reduced if the appropriate systems are in place to identify the warning signs. The warning signs of concerning behavior? And that's the only unifying characteristic of incels is concerning behavior. Huh. Is it possible for women to have concerning behavior? I mean, I guess the very possibility of a woman showing concerning behavior kind of refutes the entire concept of the incel because it has to be a man. But their only unifying trait, man, this is hurting my brain. Traditionally, law enforcement and other public safety officials focus on crimes, and so if there's no direct threat or criminal statute violated, they often feel that they can't do anything. Okay. Well, what a weird collection of videos. I wonder if they pooped their yoga pants. If they used that same stereotype for other categories of men, they would be considered racist. Yeah. Oh man, that just about gave me a headache. So, for this final topic, salvation by faith alone, I did not pick a video yet, and you know what? I decided that I wanted to pick this video. I remember this girl's channel from back when I was first becoming a Christian, and I feel like we'll kind of get a kick out of it. Because this girl has like a really like vlog style channel. Let's go ahead and pick this. Why faith alone salvation is wrong from a Protestant. Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Hey guys, it's Lizzie. So this is something I've thought for 6 or 7 years, that faith alone salvation is wrong, just doesn't make sense. It's very blatant in the Bible, especially in James, and I know that this is a really controversial thing to say because it's basically saying I disagree with one of the core parts of the Protestant Reformation, which isn't what I'm trying to say in this video. I specifically want to talk about what we mean by faith alone and why I think it's ridiculous to try to make a distinction. There's actually a lot of Protestant churches that officially disagree with it, and I think this faith alone salvation did irrefutable theological damage. So I took Koine Greek, the language of the New Testament, when I was a freshman and sophomore at Pepperdine. So the Greek word pisteuo, faith, does not mean believing without evidence, or anything really about believing in the intellectual assent to an idea type way. Pisteuo is not coming to an intellectual conclusion, accepting a premise, but pisteuo, I believe, it means entrusting your life to a...
Alright, you know what? Let's not do this. Let's do this.
Chances are you were taught that Protestants believe that salvation is through faith alone, while Catholics believe that it comes through a combination of faith and works, leading Catholics naturally to accuse Protestants of thinking they can do whatever they want as long as they believe, and leading Protestants to accuse Catholics of thinking that they can earn their salvation through good works. Fortunately, neither of these statements are actually true, but are rather misinterpretations that come when we try to oversimplify a highly technical theological question. There's certainly some truth in this often repeated distinction of faith and works, but only in a general, shorthanded, and sort of lazy sense that doesn't do justice to either side's position and overlooks the joint declaration Lutherans and Catholics made in 1999. So what do we actually believe about justification? This is Catholicism in Focus. The Council of Trent defines justification, and Protestants would agree, as a translation from that state wherein man is born a child of the first Adam to the state of grace and of the adoption of the sons of God through the second Adam, Jesus Christ our Savior. In the simplest of terms, what we're essentially dealing with here is a question of how we go from being separated from God, deserving of hell, to being with God, worthy of heaven. Now, how does it work and when does it take place? For both Catholics and Protestants like Martin Luther, the starting point is the same. We both accept that humanity has fallen from grace, and there is nothing that we can do in ourselves to merit it back. Unlike Pelagius, who argued that we possess within ourselves the means to merit our own salvation, both Catholics and Protestants recognize that our sin has left our wills damaged, and that we require the grace of God to choose the good. Nothing, not good works, not prayer, not even faith, can cause our salvation. From our human nature alone, we are wholly and entirely doomed. Of course, we are not entirely on our own, as God reaches out to each and every one of us, offering us the grace to remove our sins and offer us eternal life. God seeks to make us righteous, and so through God's initiative, not ours, we can be saved. So far, we're all on the same page. The Roman Catholic Church, Martin Luther, and many other Protestant groups are all still friends. For now. While we can all agree that justification is an act of being forgiven and made righteous in the eyes of God, there is sharp disagreement on what actually happens to us when we are justified and how we are to respond to it. For Luther, God declares us righteous and treats us differently as a result, but nothing categorically changes about who we are. We remain sinners, but God, in a sense, now chooses to overlook that and let us into communion. Lutherans understand this condition of the Christian as a being at the same time righteous and sinner. Believers are totally righteous in that God forgives their sins through word and sacrament and grants the righteousness of Christ, which they appropriate in faith. In Christ, they are made just before God. Looking at themselves through the law, however, they recognize that they remain also totally sinners. In layman's terms, and you just can't make this stuff up, Luther is famously attributed to have said that this state of justification is like being poop covered in snow. You're still the same sinful refuse that you were before, but now with Christ, you are covered with beautiful white snow, acceptable in the eyes of God. Charming, right? Naturally, this has a tremendous effect on what is expected of the Christian following their justification, since in Luther's eyes there is no hope of ever becoming anything other than a sinner, and because the Christian is as justified by Christ at the moment of their initial justification as they ever will be, there is no essential need for further conversion or purification. Because really, who can top what Christ has already done? No further works can increase this, nor can they take it away. All that matters, both in receiving justification or potentially losing it, is our complete trust in Christ. This does not mean, as Catholics might criticize, that Protestants believe that they can do anything they want as long as they have faith. While it's true that no good work, no matter how good, can merit anything more than we have already received, and so works for a Protestant don't have an essential effect on salvation, works still matter. Jesus says that you will know a tree by its fruit. Good works necessarily flow from a true faith that has been justified, and so Christians are expected to do good things, not because they cause our justification, but because they are a natural effect of it. In this way, rather than saying that Lutherans believe that salvation is the result of faith alone, implying a disconnect from works, it might be more appropriate to say that they believe that they are justified by faith, which issues forth in works. Good works are not an option for Protestants. And in many ways, this ultimate formula isn't too far off from what Catholics actually profess, but how we get there is quite different. For starters, Catholics have a far more positive view of the human person. While we accept with Luther that our nature has been corrupted by the weight of sin, we believe that our nature is essentially good, not evil, and that God's justifying grace can return us to our former state of goodness. Thus, when Catholics say that someone is justified, they do not mean that God has simply overlooked our sinfulness, but rather that our very beings are changed. The Council of Trent, speaking of these effects, proclaims that justification is not remission of sins merely, but also the sanctification and renewal of the inward man through the voluntary reception of the grace, and of the gifts whereby man of unjust becomes just, and of an enemy a friend, that so he may be an heir according to hope of life everlasting. In other words, through justification, we are not simply poop covered in snow, but people who have gone through internal purification. Christ does not just cover us up, but lives in us and transforms us into something good in ourselves. Once again, this perspective has a tremendous effect on what is expected of the Christian following their justification. Since, in the Catholic Church's eyes, there is not only hope, but a profound expectation that our very beings be transformed, and since this obviously does not happen the moment we emerge from the waters of baptism, the act of justification cannot be spoken of as just a single moment. Instead, one is justified, that is, included into the community of God, but also must continue through a process of sanctification, cooperating with the grace of God to allow God to flourish in us. It is not enough to passively allow grace to declare us justified. We must actively take up the task of growing in righteousness. And we accomplish this by doing good works, right? Interestingly enough, neither the Council of Trent nor the Catechism use the word works once to describe this process. Instead, when the Church speaks of cooperating with the grace of God, what it refers to is one's participation and growth in the theological virtues: faith, hope, and love. For Catholics, actions matter, not because they achieve our salvation separate from God, or simply because they reveal a salvation already received, but because they integrate, form, and grow what God instills in us, namely God's very self. Thus, in accepting and cooperating with these gifts, we do not simply engage in pointless do-goodery, but participate in the life of God, making us more like God ourselves. In this way, rather than saying that Catholics believe that salvation comes from faith and works, as if they were two separate criteria disconnected from God's initiative, it might be more appropriate to say that we believe that we are initially justified by faith in God, but that justification is an ongoing process of sanctification that requires us to respond with love. Which doesn't have the greatest ring to it, and you can see why we like to oversimplify these things. But it also shows where our true differences lie, and more importantly, how we have been able, in recent years, to agree on common statements on the subject. In 1999, more than 400 years after the issue of justification tore the Church apart, Lutherans and Catholics were able to come together around a common resolution. The present joint declaration has this intention, namely to show that on the basis of their dialogue, the subscribing Lutheran churches and the Roman Catholic Church are now able to articulate a common understanding of our justification by God's grace through faith in Christ. It does not cover all that either church teaches about justification. It does encompass a consensus on basic truths of the doctrine of justification and shows that the remaining differences in this explication are no longer the occasion for doctrinal condemnations. Are there still some differences? Of course. But through prayerful dialogue, Lutherans no longer consider Catholics Pelagians, and Catholics no longer consider Lutherans lazy hypocrites. So that seems like a step in the right direction. And I think there's a really important lesson in this. Here we have a topic that by all accounts caused the Reformation. For centuries, it kept the Western Church apart in a largely bitter rivalry. And yet, when we actually sit down and listen to the other explain what they believe, agreeing on common language to express our theology, what we find is that the vast oversimplifications we have used to attack one another are quite different from what we actually believe. One can only imagine how different our church would look today if we had taken this approach in the 16th century, and how much better our church and world will look in 400 years if we continue with this approach.
All right, you guys. Well, I feel like this was quite a day today. I'll just give some of my thoughts on this. First of all, it seems like this topic always comes up in the context of like the importance of going to church. And then specifically for Catholics, going to the Catholic Church. It's always like, if you're not going to Catholic Mass, you're not going to get saved, because salvation is faith plus works. So I think what it comes down to is like, how do you get saved? And I think ultimately salvation is through faith in Christ. However, going over what James is saying, I think what James is saying is that you will show works if you truly have faith in Christ. And then it gets to this like mathematical game where it's like, well, exactly what percentage of an improvement do we need to see? Like, you were a sinner before you got saved. You're still a sinner after you get saved. But like, for you to have passed the test, it's like, okay, you are in fact showing works. What is the mathematical standard? Like, 70% of your actions fell under the category of sin. Then you got saved. Now, 50% of your actions are sin. Does that qualify as showing works in your life? I mean, what is the objective standard of a Christian showing works? And an idea that I actually think seems to be pretty popular, just from what I've observed in Baptist churches, Reformed churches, Protestant churches, is that you will have a rebirth through Christ. Like, you will go through a process, and then I feel like it's implied at the end of that process. I mean, sometimes I feel like it's implied that you won't sin at all, which I definitely think would be heretical. Now, I'm not trying to accuse any specific denominations of that. I just feel like sometimes that's implied when you go through this miraculous change through Christ. Then you're supposed to be sin-free. That's definitely not the case. Yeah, it's for God to tally up. And then just my original point is, like, it does seem when this discussion comes up, the works that I feel like Catholics are usually referring to is going to the Catholic Church. Like, you have to be a part of the Roman Catholic Church, which I definitely don't agree with. Orthodox think you have to be Orthodox. Catholics think you have to be Catholic. I definitely know a lot of Protestants who say that Catholics are going to burn in hell. And it's like, it gets to this point, it's like, wow, every single denomination of Christianity thinks other denominations are going to hell, in which case you get the episode of South Park where all these people end up in hell, and they're like, wait a minute, I was a Protestant. Wait a minute, I was a Catholic. And then Satan puts on his little glasses. He's like, yes, actually, it was the Jehovah's Witnesses who were right. Sorry, guys, you all got to go to hell. I mean, if that's the case, then South Park is definitely on the money. It's just like, one of these denominations is right, and all the other Christians are going to burn in hell just as much as atheists. And, at the end of the day, it doesn't center around how I feel things should be. I would consider making the argument that incorrect theology is a sin. And it's just one of the many sins that will be redeemed through Christ. So for me, the best method of saving people is to have faith in Jesus Christ and accept him as your Lord and Savior. There could be a rare breed of people out there who say, okay, I do believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior, but I don't accept him as my Savior. And then you don't show any fruits of works in your life. So that's just kind of some of my stream of consciousness on it, is I believe that what saves you is faith in Jesus Christ. However, those who truly have faith in Jesus Christ and accept him into their heart and become a Christian, I believe that you will show good works in your life. And atheists always want to present this example of, it's like, okay, well, what if I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior right now and I don't show any difference? It's like, but you're an angry atheist who's trying to prove some point, and you're not really, you don't really have faith. So, boy, I'm like genuinely exhausted today, man. The drumming streams have been all right. I feel like more of what I need is practice. And it's interesting. It's like, I feel like some of these like punk rock songs, like the Blink-182, it's like, man, I used to be better at playing some of those songs. Like, jazz doesn't necessarily make you better at everything else. Like, if you want to play like really complex punk beats with lots of hits and cool little fills and stuff, then you should basically work on that. So, as always, I'm kind of in this place. It's like, I don't even really know what the hell I want to play on drums. I'm just kind of screwing around, doing whatever. Trying to keep it tight. Trying to keep it, whatever I play, it's tight, because I do want it to be practice. I definitely think this weekend I should just practice and not do drum streams. But the drum streams might become more of a regular thing. Yes, my main channel does have a strike. Basically, guys, I'm just Smear-tober, baby. Smear-tober. Smear-tober. It's going to be big. I love October already. It's when I watch horror movies. I watched Body Snatchers last night. I watched the 90s remake of Body Snatchers. It's so funny, dude. The people that are infected with the Body Snatchers, they go like this. Ah! They just point at people like they literally do that. Ah! They point at anybody who's not one of them. Ah! And it might as well be, you're an incel. You're a white male. You're a Republican. Like, it's like a perfect example of normies, dude. The whole town is infected with this normie virus, and anybody who's not one of them, over there, he's the one who said hate speech. He's the one who didn't vote for Hillary. Like, yeah. So I didn't feel like it was an especially good movie. Now, it's the 1990 remake. I'm sure the original was better. I found it like, not that great. But for what it is, for that example of normies, the idea of like a mind virus that like you're not one of us, it's perfect for that. Perfect for that. So that's what I got, guys. I'm really trying to build up October. Now, I'm not going to switch the podcast back to my channel when the ban wears off. I am waiting for the other strike that was already there to wear off, and that's going to be September 28th, right before October. Then that way, when I stream again, I'll only have one strike. So if I get another strike, it won't be the end of the world and I won't lose my channel. I just think that's the smartest way to go about doing things. I will make posts and videos on my main channel again, telling people to come over here for the podcast and letting people know that I'll be back completely for October. So that's where we're at, guys. Thank you for the support. Another week of podcasts cashed in. God bless you guys. And yeah, that's it. Have a good weekend. I'll probably go live this weekend. So yeah, that's it, guys. God bless you.